This question is from Renato Billo from Italy. How can I think of the divine? How can I adore him when I state that he is just awareness and nothing else? How can I combine my idea of the divine as pure awareness with my personal story of perceivable protection and guide, of witnessed miracles and stunning gifts received from the divine?
Do you see how this is the same question as yours? It's a counterpart to the same question which you just asked. So, how can I continue to worship God if I realize I am one consciousness and everything else is that same consciousness alone? If God is that same consciousness, I am consciousness and we are one, how can I worship? How can I adore? How can I love? That requires some separation, right? It becomes all oneness. So, these are problems which we face when we dive deep into non-dual philosophy. Notice the first question we dealt with, this question of ethics. How do I continue to love my children? How do I appreciate art? How do I deal with the moral issues of the day? That was the question Graham asked in the first question. Another question could be, how do I continue to love and worship God if Brahman is the only reality? Where is God in all of this? Brahman is the only reality, I am Brahman. That's it. Where is God in all of this? So these are issues. How do I continue in devotional religion, which requires dualism? Ethics, aesthetics, morality, politics, all of these, they seem to be completely undercut by non-duality. That's why it requires a careful understanding of non-duality. That's why non-duality is dangerous and that's why it is also the most advanced form of spirituality. That's why it was given very carefully, only to prepared minds. If I take it as, it's all an illusion, being very careful to say, I am real. No. Swami, I don't mean it in that simplistic sense. I understand, I am consciousness, but the rest of you all are appearances in me, the consciousness. Remember then that one consciousness is actually very rooted in this body-mind. You're looking at it from the perspective of one body-mind. And therefore everybody else is an appearance. No. As I said, take away from the first question and the answer, the discussion, the central teaching of Advaita Vedanta is oneness. It's not dismissing everything as illusion. Dismissing as illusion, as an appearance, is a step to realizing oneness. One simple point here I can raise. World is an appearance. What we understand by that? Oh, all this is an appearance. But when you say all this is an appearance, this is not just the world. It is Brahman appearing as the world. Are we not throwing out the baby with the bathwater? If I say the name and form, table is a name, form and function, wood is the reality, and therefore I say I dismiss this as an appearance, but the wood is right here. What I am telling you is to separate in your understanding, only in your understanding it's possible, is to the wood what it is in reality and the imposed name, form and function, which is, the whole thing is what we call a table, but it includes the underlying reality which is wood. Similarly, what we call world right now is Brahman plus world. You're dismissing the world nature of it, but you cannot dismiss the Brahman nature of it, which is the underlying existence, consciousness place. Now the particular question here is about devotion, about love of God. How can I continue to have love of God after non-duality? Notice first and foremost, the great masters of non-duality had no problem in loving God. Adi Shankaracharya, who is a greater non-dualist than him, he wrote so many wonderful verses. Even today, devout Hindus chant Bhaja Govindam, worship Govinda, worship Krishna. They chant the hymns to Shiva, to the Divine Mother, to Krishna, to Ganga, written by Shankaracharya. So, Shankaracharya had no problem in being a non-dualist and being devoted to God at the same time. Swami Vivekananda had no problem. Ramana Maharshi had no problem. Sri Ramakrishna certainly didn't have any problem in being devoted to God and being a non-dualist at the same time. There is a, let's put it this way. You, the questioner, you realize, you feel or you understand that I am one consciousness. But after that also, your life is continuing. You are appearing as this person. His name is Renato. So you are appearing as this person. So Renato is still walking around and talking and writing questions to Ask Swami and eating and waking and dreaming and going to a job, presumably doing all sorts of things in the world. None of it is hindered by being one consciousness. Only poor God seems to suffer. No, it's a serious question. He's asking, so it's a serious question. No. If I can do everything in the world, I can worship God also. And the two are not incompatible. The two are not incompatible. Action in this world, which seems to be dualistic, is not incompatible with non-duality. In fact, it is grounded in non-duality. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavi, Brahmagno Brahmanahutam, Brahmeva tena gantavyam, Brahma karma samadhina. That in our action, the Vedic fire rituals, which were rituals performed in the Vedic ages, where fire was lit and offerings were poured in a wooden spoon into the lit fire in the accompaniment of chanting of Vedic mantras. So the Krishna says, the spoon with which you are performing the ritual, the offerings, that spoon is Brahman. The offerings being poured into the fire is Brahman. The enkindled fire is Brahman. The one who is offering is Brahman. In fact, then he says, the one who sees Brahman in every aspect of action, that one finds Brahman or realizes Brahman. That means in the middle of action, not by withdrawing from action. There can be an action with the paradigm of duality, which is where we are. I am separate, and that cookie is separate from me. I need to put that cookie into my mouth. So that's the action. I am separate, the cookie is separate. So, and then this is an action based on duality. But then, if it's non-duality, you see oneness everywhere, and action is also the same oneness, the same consciousness appears as action. In Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manava. That one non-dual reality which appears as this universe, you worship that non-dual reality. How do you worship this non-dual reality? By your work. The work is also that non-dual reality. And sentient beings, human beings, spiritual seekers like us attain to perfection, enlightenment by worshipping that all-pervasive non-dual reality through one's work. When I say it might sound contradictory, but it's not. When I say one's work, I, the worker, and the work that I do, and the non-dual reality I am worshipping through that work, they're all that one non-dual reality. Knowing it to be non-dual, persist in action. Krishna says two very beautiful statements about action to Arjuna. Yoga samatva muchyate. What is yoga? Yoga is said to be evenness. How can you be have evenness in the middle of action? It's only when you see that one non-dual reality everywhere. You see it is the same being in all beings I interact with. The same being within me, same there, same in all of my actions. Evenness. The second statement he makes, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Within 2 verses of that, in the 2nd chapter. Yoga is skill in action. So what is this skill in action? Not that one is an expert in one's job, which is a good thing, but here a spiritual skill is indicated. What is the spiritual skill in action? In the midst of activity, I can center myself in my knowledge of non-dual reality, that I am Brahman, this is one limitless existence, consciousness, bliss. And in that, as an ocean, in that like a wave is moving across the surface of the ocean, all activities are going on through this body and mind. That is the skill in action. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. How to perform actions in a non-attached way. Not in the dualistic paradigm. I, by doing this, will get that. The non-dualism will tell you, you and that are already one. From that perspective, So all our actions then will be purified, spiritualized. They'll no longer be selfish. What's the problem with action, with doing anything? It's because we are very centered in this body-mind. So every activity is tinged with, infected with this selfishness. Is inflected and infected with this selfishness. Whereas if I have a strong conviction, clarity about my non-dual nature, being one with everybody, the actions performed to this particular body and mind will be unselfish. We'll have that fragrance, the perfume of oneness. That's why the actions of the enlightened ones are so instructive, so inspiring. How can they be so selfless? How can they be so fearless? How can they be so joyous in the midst of struggles? How can they be not petty? How can they be so large? It's all because they're centered in this one limitless non-duality. Then only action flows. Devotion is also like that. Hanuman was asked by Sri Ramachandra, I've mentioned this many times, what do you think of me? And Hanuman, the devotee, he says, Jiva buddhya daso aham. As a sentient being, deha buddhya daso aham. As this body, as Hanuman, I am the servant, thou art my master. Rama is the master, Hanuman is the servant. Jiva buddhya twadangshaka. As this sentient being, I am part of you. You, my Lord, are the whole, and I am a tiny spark of you. Atma buddhya tvamevaham iti me nishchitamati. As the Atman, as consciousness, you and I are one. I am you, you are me. We are one being. Which one is right? Iti me nishchitamati. This is my firm conviction. All three. So after Hanuman says, I am one and you are one. I and you are one reality. We are all one reality. Does he now say to Ramachandra that I can't serve you anymore? I am one with you. You can do stuff for me if you like, but I am not going to do anything for you. Because now I have realized I am not really your servant. No, I continue to be your servant. That one ocean of non-duality manifests here as the Lord Rama and his devoted servant Hanuman. I'm perfectly fine. Though I am very clear about what the reality is, underlying realities. That makes it all the more joyous. Great joy. Great delight. There is a saying, Bodhat prag dvaitam mohaya prapte manishaya bhaktyartham kalpitam dvaitam advaitadapi sundaram. Before enlightenment, duality leads to delusion. After enlightenment, the duality imagined for love is more beautiful than non-duality. So, before enlightenment, before we know this underlying oneness, this non-dual reality, duality can lead to delusion. So our worldly life is full of delusion. Our worldly life is just, we are infected with so many complexes, desires, grudges, prejudices. It's like we're living in a world of dreams, mostly nightmares. And none of it is particularly real. So this is our world before enlightenment. Even if you are genuinely spiritual, without non-duality, the dualistic devotion of a spiritual seeker, without the grounding of non-duality, what will happen is, it will once in a while be affected by doubt. I worship God. A God of what? A God of faith. I have deep faith in God. The moment you say that, you are terribly vulnerable to doubt and skepticism. Even if you don't listen to Richard Dawkins, or even if you just keep yourself insulated and keep yourself to devotional reading and prayer and faith and the company of other people, life is tough. Life throws so many kicks and blows at you, it will test the deepest faith. And then questions will come. This God I believed in all these years and decades of my life, does it really exist? Or is it a figment of, is it made up? Is it made up? But those who are grounded in non-duality, they have this much at least. One thing is not made up. This underlying existence consciousness. All made up things also appear to this one thing. There is underlying existence consciousness which I am. It cannot be denied. This is the basic discovery of Descartes and other great philosophers. Your own existence cannot be questioned. What I am can be questioned, but that I am, it cannot be questioned. Suppose God, to the non-dualist, suppose you say God doesn't exist at all. You finally make the discovery, no God exists. The non-dualist is not fazed at all. Because this discovery, no God exists, appears to that one limitless consciousness, which it definitely is. It cannot be denied. It is more real than this very concrete, this, that you are consciousness, that you exist, is more real than this very solid thing. More real than this. Because it is to that this solid thing is presented. It is to that reality that this is appearing. That cannot be denied. If you base your devotion on non-duality, then your devotion, your love of God will be proof against doubt, against skepticism. After enlightenment, the separation which is imagined, there's no separation. Separation which is imagined for the sake of love, it is more beautiful than non-duality. The non-dualists enjoy this world more. You see, they dismiss this world as an appearance, but they enjoy it more than we do. We run through this world as if we are persecuted and being chased down. They are relaxed. Vivekananda says, I know that I cannot die, so I am not in a hurry. They are perfectly at ease. The non-dualist has done what has to be done in human life, has known what has to be known in human life, has achieved what has to be achieved in human life. Imagine the peace and rest of that person. Then everything, you can let loose a huge sigh of relief. And then the rest of your life, and if there are other lives also, is all joy and joy only. Bhati ched bhatu. Maikasya bhushanam tat. This is a Sanskrit phrase. After all talk of non-duality, I am Brahman, this world still appears. I'm still the guy, I have to still fill the parking meter, and there are taxes to be done, and it's really cold outside. All of this world is still appearing after all talk of existence, consciousness, bliss, I am Brahman. It didn't make any difference. And the non-dualist reply is, Bhati ched bhati. Is it appearing, the world? Yes. Let it appear. Maikasya bhushanam tat. This is the glory. Literally it means the ornament. This is the jewelry. Maika means the consciousness with the power of Maya. This universe is the ornament, is the jewelry, is the decoration, is the ornamentation, is the glory of you the consciousness. It's your power of Maya displaying like a magic display to you. Let it continue. It can't do anything to you. Yes, to you the consciousness. It can't do anything. So, devotion can continue. Love of God can very well continue and should continue. Long-winded reply, but just look at the lives of enlightened people, especially in the non-dual tradition. If you look at them, you'll see many of them have very great devotion to God. They see no problem with devotion to God and non-dual realization.